Well, I think that ends our formal presentations, and we're going to open it up to questions. And I know we have some questions from people that are Zooming.
How many are still with us?
Wow. We don't know that they're glued to their screens. Okay.
Cindy, a question here.
Yeah.
You had some numbers up there, Cindy, about the number of users.
Cindy, could you
Oh, I'm
back
sorry.
up
The
here?
number of users that you put up there. So if I have a permit and I come once, my one counted one, if I come 3 times, am I counted one as a user or?
Those are permits, not.
It's a permit,
So
yeah.
what I'm asking is how many total times does the guy go in for the people? go
That's
in
a
and out of
different
the-
number, yeah. That's a lot more.
It's typically about 1,800.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's about, it was about, I think it was between 17 and 1,800 this year.
Yeah, so that's a more useful number to know. It's
Yeah,
not time people going in
that's
and
true.
out as opposed to just the number of
That's true.
registrants.
I will add it to it.
So there's actually one Zoom question, and the question is, it was posed in 2 different ways, but it's about addressing the potential contamination from the proposed artificial turf being proposed for the playing fields uphill from the lake. I don't know who that would be.
Where are the fields exactly?
At the high school.
High school.
The football
At the high
field we're
school,
talking about.
yeah.
Goes straight to the lake.
It's a great question. I certainly don't have that answer.
Just hunted over to the high school. Pun intended.
There you go.
I would think they're gonna have to.
I guess the question is are there chemicals released from the artificial turf, the runoff? Yeah.
Also, when you lose impervious surface, right? So you get more runoff. There's always,
Sure.
Before, the last time around, with our neutral turf,
was it,
yes.
what they found, you know?
Well, it wasn't so.
So when it rains on artificial turf, I'm assuming it does penetrate through, right? It doesn't just,
Yeah, I would think so. I don't know.
With the current artificial turf you're saying, it does penetrate through?
I would think that it would, but I don't know that either.
There's
I
a
think
degree of
so, but-
porosity to it, but then at some point, that's gotta bottom out and go somewhere. But-
Right.
It's still got to drain off, and you've got crumb rubber underneath there that has whatever.
We can try to find that out for the
And I would think they'd have to be doing environmental
impact
impacts on
studies.
that, and with that answer would come out.
Does the village get involved with that, Cindy, do you know?
I don't know if they would, because it's not our property.
The
Okay.
college has,
It's different,
the
yeah.
college has a synthetic field, so maybe they did some studies that could be tapped into as well.
Hasn't turf been voted on several times, and each time it's gotten turned down,
Yeah.
but this study has to have already been done.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you go through the planning board?
No,
No,
they're a
not
separate
for schools.
entity.
Yeah.
The school is a separate entity?
Yeah, they're their own municipal authority, essentially.
Interesting, okay.
I can guarantee your studies have been done probably several times. Because the conversation of turf and lights has been around.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys heard Brian, but the study's probably already been done.
Probably.
So we just should try to get our hands on the study.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then there should be
I
some
can think of,
meetings in
even
the
in my
school.
short lifetime, like
I
2 or
don't-
3 times that this has come to vote, so it's
Yeah.
got to start.
How far along are they in the process of going, I don't know where they're at in their process of, I know it's gotta come up for vote. I don't know if they've done their public meetings yet, I don't think they have.
I think it's an intendency. This,
Yeah,
this version.
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I
the
do
public
too.
meeting should be next, I would think.
Right, and in the public meetings, that should be asked.
But we
And
could
they
get
have to
out-
do the same thing the village does, but as their own separate entity.
But we could get out in front of it and ask the powers that be in
Yeah.
the school district to provide whatever data they may already have, or let them know to be on notice that it's a concern.
You should formulate a letter for them and get it to the superintendent and
Yeah.
the president of the board.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Al Webster, for bringing that to our attention. And one more question just came through from Eden Ankar. Can you address the issue of runoff, land disturbances, zoning violations, etc., that are that are contributions substantially to the serious deterioration of the lake. It seems that a lot of the focus is on Band-Aids and not on addressing the actual causes. Sort of
Well, certainly each land disturbance around the lake is controlled by the town, and Roger Cook is in charge of making sure that if there's construction or if there's trees coming down, that is fairly closely regulated by Roger and the town to make sure that there is not runoff into the lake. You know, all the construction sites are designed to have barriers to prevent things from going into the lake. But I certainly understand the question and how closely is all that looked at by Roger. I think it's fairly closely looked at. Yeah.
And he's told us, we've had some situations where people have contacted us and asked for it to be anonymous, but expressing a concern about something they see. Roger will be the first person to admit he can't be everywhere all the time, but he wants to know about it, whether it goes to Jimmy or goes directly to Roger. And once he's aware of it, then he can look at it if there's a specific violation.
This is a common thing. People, you know, often call me about when trees are cut down. And in almost every case, when I call Roger, he knows about it, and they have permits, and it's legal what they're doing. I've actually never contacted them about something that was not the case.
And just to add to that, so there are times definitely, so for instance, I live across the new house that across the building, and he has a lot of silt fence, so it's the whole way, and they're doing a great job. But we had, during one of those large storms, silt fence got washed away. So someone noticed it, and they talked to me, and I don't know if you did, or.
You talked to me and I talked to
I talked to
Roger.
Roger, and Roger went over that, I think that same day.
Yeah.
And we had the silt fence repaired. So, to your point, it's hard for Roger to be every place at every time, but if he knows about it, and if we can help him, they'll just go check. And it's not a tattletale situation or I'm trying to get somebody, it's just trying to do what's best for the lake. So that does work.
I guess the other part of that is, and Jimmy, you could maybe address this, there are recommendations that the town has for how you develop your property down by the lake.
Right.
And there aren't, as far as I know now, there are not requirements for what you have to do in terms of landscaping, but there's suggestions and guidance.
They're guidelines.
They're
And
guidelines.
When you go before the planning board, the planning board has the guidelines as, that's their
And
guide.
that's part of your approval process.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So it's not, doesn't have teeth, but it does guide the, the planning board.
Yeah, and anytime there's something done within the critical environmental area, you have to go before the planning board.
I must admit, on the way down here, I saw that Crawford's cut all the trees in front
I
of the
figured
house.
somebody was gonna ask about that.
Yeah.
So I did contact Roger
Really?
about that. And they did have a permit that was approved by the planning board, and they have a plan
To replant,
something.
yeah.
So, I mean, it does get into, if it's your property, should you have a right to do
Yeah.
it?
It's a give and take.
It's kind of a balancing act,
Yeah.
like everything.
Just a follow-up comment on the artificial turf says that it is made from recycled tires.
Yep.
Is that good or bad?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound,
That makes me feel better.
doesn't sound very good. Does that make me feel better?
Those are PFMA.
Yeah. All right, thank you, everybody on Zoom. We're going to, unless there are more questions here.
Thanks, everybody. This has been good.
Yeah.